The Middle East has entered one of its most dangerous moments in recent years. Reports say the United States has launched what officials are calling the most intense wave of attacks against Iran since the beginning of the war. Massive airstrikes, advanced bombers, and precision-guided missiles have targeted key Iranian military sites in a dramatic escalation that could reshape the entire region. But what exactly triggered this surge in military action? What targets were hit? And most importantly, what does this escalation mean for global stability, energy markets, and the future of the conflict? In today's video, we break down the latest developments, the background behind this growing confrontation, and why the world is watching this situation so closely. The latest escalation began when the United States launched a coordinated series of strikes on Iranian military infrastructure. U.S. defense officials described the operation as the most intense phase of the campaign so far, involving long-range bombers, fighter jets, and precision-guided munitions. According to reports from defense officials, the strikes focused on strategic targets across Iran. These reportedly included missile launch facilities, air defense systems, command centers, and infrastructure believed to support Iran's missile and drone programs. One of the most notable elements of the operation was the use of long-range bombers capable of delivering large numbers of precision weapons in a single mission. These aircraft are designed to strike multiple targets quickly, overwhelming defensive systems. Officials say the purpose of these strikes is to degrade Iran's military capabilities and reduce its ability to conduct further attacks in the region. In particular, U.S. planners appear focused on neutralizing Iran's missile arsenal and drone infrastructure, which have been key components of Iran's military strategy. Residents in several Iranian cities reportedly heard explosions overnight as waves of strikes hit military installations and infrastructure. While exact damage assessments are still emerging, early reports suggest significant disruption to Iranian military facilities. At the same time, Iran has continued retaliatory actions. Iranian forces and allied groups have launched missiles and drones toward U.S. bases and allied targets in the region. Some of these attacks have targeted military installations and shipping routes linked to Western interests. The situation remains highly fluid, with both sides exchanging threats and military actions that could further escalate the conflict. To fully understand why this latest escalation matters, it's important to examine the deeper roots of tensions between the United States and Iran. Relations between the two countries have been strained for decades. The rivalry dates back to the late 20th century and has been shaped by political disagreements, regional power struggles, and disputes over Iran's nuclear program. Over the years, tensions have repeatedly flared through sanctions, proxy conflicts, and occasional military confrontations. In recent years, concerns about Iran's nuclear ambitions have been a major source of friction. Western governments have accused Iran of pursuing nuclear weapons capability, while Iranian leaders insist that their nuclear program is intended for peaceful purposes. Another major factor has been Iran's influence across the Middle East. Through alliances and proxy groups in several countries, Iran has expanded its regional presence. The United States and some of its allies view this influence as a challenge to regional stability. The immediate lead-up to the current conflict involved a series of escalating incidents in the region. These included attacks on shipping vessels, missile strikes targeting military bases, and growing tensions between Iran and U.S. forces stationed in the Middle East. As these incidents multiplied, military deployments increased. Additional aircraft, naval forces, and missile defense systems were sent to the region as tensions continued to rise. Eventually, limited confrontations evolved into a broader military campaign involving direct strikes on Iranian facilities. Since then, both sides have engaged in repeated cycles of attack and retaliation. Now, with the United States launching what officials describe as the most intense round of strikes so far, the conflict appears to be entering a new and potentially more dangerous phase. The implications of this escalation extend far beyond the immediate battlefield. First, there is the risk of a wider regional conflict. The Middle East is home to multiple alliances, rivalries, and military actors. If the fighting expands, other countries or armed groups could become involved, turning the conflict into a much larger confrontation. Second, the situation has serious implications for global energy markets. The Persian Gulf region plays a critical role in the world's oil supply. Any disruption to shipping routes or energy infrastructure could have ripple effects on global oil prices and economic stability. One key location frequently mentioned in discussions about the conflict is the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow waterway serves as one of the most important oil transit routes in the world. A significant portion of global energy shipments passes through it every day. If tensions lead to disruptions in this area, the consequences could be felt far beyond the Middle East, affecting economies around the world. Another major concern is the humanitarian impact. Military operations in densely populated areas can lead to civilian casualties, displacement, and damage to critical infrastructure such as hospitals, power systems, and water facilities. International organizations are closely monitoring the situation to assess potential humanitarian needs as the conflict evolves. Diplomatically, global powers are also watching the situation with growing concern. Some countries are calling for restraint and renewed negotiations to prevent further escalation. However, diplomacy becomes increasingly difficult once military actions intensify. Each round of strikes can create pressure for retaliation, making it harder for leaders on either side to step back from the conflict. There is also the strategic question of long-term outcomes. Even if military operations weaken certain capabilities, conflicts between major regional powers rarely and quickly or easily. Analysts warn that prolonged military confrontation could create instability across multiple parts of the Middle East, affecting security, trade, and political alliances. At the same time, some experts argue that the current escalation may be intended to force negotiations. In international conflicts, large military operations are sometimes used to gain leverage at the negotiating table. Whether that strategy will succeed remains uncertain. For now, the world is watching closely as the situation continues to develop. The United States has launched what it calls the most intense attacks against Iran since the start of the war, marking a significant escalation in an already volatile conflict. These strikes highlight the growing military confrontation between the two countries and raise serious questions about the future of stability in the Middle East, with global energy markets, regional security, and humanitarian concerns all at stake. The consequences of this conflict could reach far beyond the battlefield. As events continue to unfold, it will be crucial for the international community to monitor the situation and pursue diplomatic solutions wherever possible. For viewers trying to understand complex global events like this, staying informed is more important than ever. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our in-depth coverage of the world's most important stories.